Now on a previous video, I sat inside Cafe Nero with my iPhone earbuds and the QWERTY keyboard on the laptop to make a track in Ableton Live. This is the result, okay? So I'm gonna link up the previous video if you wanna go and check that out. It's 1 hour, 20 minutes of over-the-shoulder composition. Now, the end result needs to be mixed, so those earbuds are not good for doing the actual mix down. I'm going to be running this as a session in front of you guys today on my Genelec 8030, so I've got much better listening conditions, and the format's going to be a little bit different to my usual videos because of the fact that I'm on the speakers here. So I'm going to have to kind of stop the music and then talk about stuff and then play it again so that we don't get things doubling up. Okay, so let's go from the top. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to basically set a loop around a section where I've got these beats being pretty lively. I tell you one thing I do want to do, because it's going to be basically affecting what's going on here. I've got these effects here on the master already. I'm going to set these up as a group. So hold Shift and select from the beginning to the end, and then group these together and turn them off. Okay, so that's the original processing I had on there. Let's listen again. Let's take that right off. It's very tempting to do that whilst you're working, and I did do that, but I actually want to wipe the slate clean and start again. Okay, so I added some distortion to the kick drum. If you look at the composition video, you'll see that going on. So what I want to do is just take a look again at this, double clicking on the track here. You can see that I've got the overdrive. Let me take that off and let's have a listen. Now for me at the moment, it feels like I added a little bit too much. So I'm going to dial back the dry wet mix and just make it a little bit less aggressive. The other thing that I want to do is take a look at these toms. What I want to do is to solo the kick and also these toms, because I'm detecting a little bit of a clash down there. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply an EQ. So let's go onto the list and let's add EQ 8. I'm going to do the same for the other tom as well. So just going to drag a copy holding down the Alt key, and same again here. So let's have a look. Oh, it's actually only 2 of these toms. Let's have a look at what's going on with this. Now you can hear, if you listen carefully, that the tom mid is occurring at the same grid position as the kick. Have a listen again. And this one here, I suspect, has a similar amount of low frequency energy as that other tom. So at that point where they're both playing at the same time, it does sound messy. They're both basically having a lot of low frequency energy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the first band and turn it into a low cut. Let's see, about 100. And in fact, overall, considering the fact there is also a bass line in there later, what I'm feeling is that I should do the same on the other one. Okay, let's take a look. It's a similar tone. And you know, one of the things that we've been discovering recently is that it's maybe not a good idea to have precisely the same low cut frequency occurring on all of your sounds. So a little mixture of the frequencies is potentially a good idea. That's one of the reasons why I haven't gone with straight up 100 Hertz on both. Let me listen to the high one, and of course, because this is higher in pitch, there may be less low frequency energy. That's the other thing to consider. I just want to take the just take this band off for the moment. we can see it's there. I might be inclined to actually take the cutoff a bit higher on this. I want the toms to be there, but I know that with my bass line coming in later, I don't want them to be too heavy. I'm also going to experiment with this tom and just sweep one of these parametric bands around and just see if I can pick out certain characteristics and maybe consider taking some away. So as you can see there, I did a cut and it feels to me, I'm liking the sound there. I felt that buzzy kind of brighter texture, felt like it had too much energy. So I've just warmed that up a bit. Let's take a look at this mid tom here as well, do similar. Okay, that's good. Let me also consider this kick drum. Let me bring the EQ8 in. Now, what you can see me doing here is that I'm taking away the frequencies at 173 Hertz. There was almost a little bit too much of a thump there. I'm going to increase the gain to counteract that. So I've reduced that by 4 dBs. I'm going to go up about 4. Let's have a listen. By the way, you may be able to hear it. It's a very rainy day in London today. So if you're wondering what that texture is, it's literally the rain. Let's keep going. I'm also inclined to take this kick and shorten it. Let me see what happens if we do this. Okay, the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the back of my room, and that's where I check sub. Let me see how it feels. Okay, they're sitting well at the moment. Let's take a look at the other elements we've got. Now, when I listen to the clap coming in there, it's almost feeling as if those toms could do with coming down. They just feel like they're poking out just a little bit too much. Okay, so at the moment, today, you know, my mood is a bit different. I'm feeling that I want to take off the overdrive, okay? It feels like it just was just too hefty, too present. I I'll possibly change my mind later on when I bring the other elements in, but for the moment I think I prefer how that is. Okay. And it's always interesting, you know, coming back to something that was being composed on the fly with an audience, which is essentially what was happening with that first video. So you can be a bit more objective about it. But of course, you know, your mood can be different. That's the thing, you know, when you're making music, it's a very different headspace to actually mixing. So I'm just listening back to this. I like what I'm hearing. I'm wondering if I should just do a little bit of EQ work on this though. Let's bring that kick back. So a couple of things that I've done there with the EQ, I was just rolling off some of the bottom end, a couple of things, the low cuts, and then also a parametric band to reduce frequencies there. And also the compressor, I've just taken up the ratio here just so it's compressing it harder, and just really trying to balance out all of the elements in that percussive section. And that's particularly being used to deal with the flanging, because the flanging will introduce volume fluctuations. There's a frequency in this tom that's really bothering me. Let me try and pick it out. To tell you the truth, they feel like they've lost a little bit of their guts, and one of the great things about Ableton Live is, of course, we can roll back and do this, the scale, but what that's doing is also bringing back the higher frequencies here. So I would be inclined to say, let me just get this back to 100. What I'm going to do is just take that frequency lower. So this is the low cut. And then also just not so much of a cut over here. So bring that up. Let's see how that one is. And then also this one here, similar thing. And I felt like it's too much of a cut. The other thing I want to do is just take these toms and also the percussion together and see how they're setting. So what's happening is that they're kind of working together. Let me take the solo off. So just a little bit of rebalancing there on some of those elements. I think that's working. Let's have a look at what else we've got going on. So some more elements coming in on the drums. So you notice that I panned those at opposite directions, so just trying to create a little bit more separation. Let's move this over here. So I'm just listening to that sound and I felt like it needed a little bit more bottom end. So I was playing around with the operator, just taking the first two oscillators lower. But of course, you know, they're changing the characteristic of the sound. Let me take a look at this. Okay, yeah, for me, I do feel like I need some more bottom end, but I've taken a look on the EQ. If I boost the frequencies where the low frequency element of the bass is, let me just show you again. Let me bring this up. See over here about 80, I want that to be lower, you know. So when I was doing this, have a look. Let's take the course down to 0. I might just go with this because I like the energy that's occurring there. Let me see how that sits with the bass. So a bunch of rebalancing there, just trying to get something where these are all sitting nicely together. So you can see my approach here. I'm just going through section by section, taking a look at when new elements coming. I do remember that I changed the decay on the bass here, so all of that work might end up being messed up. Let's have a listen. Okay, you've seen I've been working on a whole bunch of stuff there, and I didn't really get on the mic, and I've kind of lost track of what I did. I know I did a couple of things. So with the string, I wanted to add some width to that, so that's why I increased the mix on the chorus. The filtered chord, I can't remember what I did on there. Now the ARP just needed to come up in level, So I did that. Big clap also up in level. So just a little bit of rebalancing on those elements. Now the thing about the filtered chord here is that later on it does get some automation, so the tone changes. So we need to bear that in mind when the filter is changing. The volume levels will also change. And now I'm thinking maybe I want to get that kick distortion back on again. So let me have a listen. Let's see how that is. So I'm just going to play this, have a listen to it over a longer section now. So I've just been doing a few little bits and pieces as I've been listening there, just once again, just rebalancing some elements. I felt like the chord wasn't cutting through in the right way, so I ran the compressor over that just to balance stuff out. And once again, I'm just going to take things back. I want to get it to the beginning when that chord first comes in and just get some context on it. By the way, there is some pitch shifting. It's a pitch bend that's occurring on the ARP. And when I go back to this position, I don't think any of that pitch data is in there. So let me just take a look. I'm just going to put a pitch bend reset as such at the beginning of that. Let's have a listen. Okay, just for some reason I put my limiter on the wrong channel there. I wonder why things weren't as they should be. So I'm just going to take this to minus 0.5. It seems that every now and again it just gets a little bit too loud. I don't want to be rebalancing this stuff here. I'm quite happy with that. It will need to go into a limiter for mastering anyway. The other thing that I could do, of course, because this thing is going to go up on Blend, all right, and the full project will be there, so people can go and investigate it and check it out. It will need to be mastered, so it may be better for me to, instead of adding that limiter, just bring this down a few dBs so that there's some headroom for a mastering process to occur. Okay, that's going through most of the main elements. So I think I'm happy with that. I think I'd probably, in reality, like to sit down with it for a bit, take some space away. But, you know, for the purpose of the video, you know, what I wanted to do was to go through the processes that I would go through in terms of taking that idea that I put together on the iPhone earbuds into something that sounds better on the speakers. So take a look, see what you think about it. I will place the project up on Blend. When it's up, I will put the link into the description. And as usual, if you have any questions, please give me a shout.